Well, hi there, everyone. Wish I could be here with you today, but since I can't, I'm going to be here virtually. So today our lesson is going to be 5.5a standard form. Our goal is to be able to write an equation in standard form. On the top of your notes, can you please write what standard form looks like? It looks like this. ax plus by equals c. So go ahead and copy that down. Of course, the x and the y that you see in this equation, this x and this y here, those are all of the ordered pairs that are along the line. The a, the b, and the c represent numbers, but not any particular numbers. They're not the slope, they're not the intercepts, they're not anything. Now there's some important things that you need to know about standard form in order for you to change an equation into standard form. First of all, that first number a, it must be a positive number. It cannot be negative, so that's important for you to write down. Then the second thing is that the a, the b, and the c have to be integers. They have to be whole numbers. They could be, b and c could be negative, but they have to be whole numbers. So no fractions, no decimals. So you may want to pause the video at this time and just be sure that you copy this important information down. All right, now we're going to take a look at a couple examples and see if we can write these equations in standard form. So right now you're going to recognize this as point slope form, and we want to be able to convert it so that it looks like this, ax plus by equals c. So in order to do that, we're going to first need to distribute, simplify here. So you can do this along with me. Now the next thing to think about here is the fact that the x and the y need to be on this side and all of the constants need to be on this side. So what I like to do is change this to slope-intercept form first by adding the 8, just because you guys are familiar with this. On the negative 6 plus 8, there we go. So now it's going to be a form that you recognize, y equals mx plus b. But again, in order to get it to standard form, we need the x and the y to be on the left-hand side. So I have to move this over to the other side. To do that, I would have to subtract it. So now I have a 2 here, and then over here I'd want to put these two in the order in which it shows here, the x term first. So I'd have negative 3x plus y. Now if you notice here, this first term, this a term here, is a negative, and we can't have it be a negative. I want this negative 3 to be a positive 3. So in order to do that, I could multiply it by negative 1. But again, because this is an equation, I have to do the same thing to both sides. So if I multiply this entire side by negative 1, I have to multiply this entire side by negative 1 also. So here, now this is going to become a positive 3x, but I have to also multiply the y by negative 1. Think distributive property. So negative y, and then over here, multiply the 2 by negative 1, and there I have it. This is standard form. We can see the a term is 3, the b term is negative 1, and the c term is negative 2. There's no fractions, there's no decimals. So I could put my answer up here if you'd like. There's my standard form. Okay, let's try number 2. So here you're going to see that this is in slope-intercept form, and we want to convert it to standard form. So I have my y where I want it. I need to move my x over here, so the opposite of minus would be to add 0.4x. And then I add 0.4x over here. So I have 1.2, and then if I put these in the right order, it would look like this. Now remember, the a, the b, and the c need to be integers, whole numbers. The first term is positive, so that's good, but I have to make all of these whole numbers. So think about what I can do with these decimals to make them whole numbers. You guys know that if you multiply a decimal by 10, it moves the decimal point 1 place to the right. So if I move this decimal point 1 place to the right and this one, I would have whole numbers. So maybe we could think of multiplying both sides of this equation by 10. Remember, whatever I do to one, I have to do to the other. So if I multiply a 1.2 by 10, it just moves the decimal point, making that a 12. And over here, if I multiply this first 0.4 by 10, it moves the decimal point 1 place to the right, giving me a 4. But I also have to multiply the y by 10, giving me positive 10y. Now, we're almost done. It's looking good. I have integers here. But do you notice that both sides of this can be simplified? A 4, a 10, and a 12 are all divisible by 2. So I want to divide this side by 2 and this side by 2. I want to be sure that I simplify. So that's going to become 2x plus divide here, 5y equals divide here, 6. And there's my standard form. I want to be sure I simplify it. So I have 2x plus 5y equals 6. So my A term is 2, the B term is 5, and the C term is 6. Okay, here on number 3, you'll notice this is slope-intercept form. And you see that there's a fraction in this example. So we're going to convert it to standard. Again, this x term has to move over to the left, so I can do that by subtracting the 3/5 x, since that's a positive. And I have a 4. That's my C value. Over here, I want to get these two in the right order. The x comes before the y. Okay, looks like this is what I have. Now, there's two problems. One, this negative here in the A term can't be there. It has to be a positive. The second problem is that there's a fraction. We can't have any fractions. It has to be whole numbers or integers. So I got two problems. You probably can fix these two problems in one step, but because I'm not here and this is a video, I'm going to show you how to do it in 2 steps. First of all, to make this first term a positive, we want to multiply everything by -1. So everything on both sides. That's going to make this a positive 3/5 x. That's going to make this a minus y. And over here, a -4. Okay, I got that taken care of. Now, the second problem is the fact that this is a fraction. So I want you to think about what can I multiply this by to make it a whole number. And you might be thinking that you could multiply by the denominator, and you're absolutely right. If I multiply by the denominator by 5 or 5/1, the 5's will cancel, and this will become 3x. But remember, being that this is an equation, I have to do the same thing to both sides. So I have to multiply this entire side by 5. I did it to the first term, but I also have to multiply this by 5. So this is going to become -5y. Then on this side, I have to multiply by 5, also giving me -20. And it looks like nothing, I can't simplify because not all terms are divisible by something. So here's my standard form. 3x minus 5y equals -20. And you can see here that all of these are integers, whole numbers, no negative in the front. So it follows all the rules. Now I just want to point out something to you, that the 3, the 5, and the -20, they represent absolutely nothing. None of them are the slope. None of them are the intercept or anything. They're just numbers. That's it. Okay? All right, number 4. Here you're going to recognize this as point slope form. So we want to change it into standard. Now you probably notice here that we have a fraction, and so that's going to be kind of an icky thing. We're going to have to maybe undo that if we need to. We'll see. Maybe we won't. Let's check it out. So distribute, of course, again. Negative times positive, and I have 4/3 times 9. So over here I'm going to go 4/3 times 9/1. Ooh, how nice. Divide. This is really just a 12, isn't it? Okay, looks good. All right, so what I showed you before in number 1 is that maybe we can first move this constant over to this side. So really what you're doing is you're getting it into slope-intercept form first. So combine these two, -10. Now we need to get the x over here on this side, so of course I can just add it. I have -10 here, 4/3 x, and then the positive y. Okay, still have a problem, the fact that this is a fraction. So in order to make that a whole number, I want to multiply by the denominator. I want to multiply it by 3. But that means I have to multiply this by 3 and this by 3. Everything on both sides. So 3 cancels with 3, and I have 4x left. Here I have 3y. And here I have -30. Check to see if everything can be divided by the same number to simplify. Nope. Done. So I have 4x plus 3y equals -30. So you're seeing here that I was able to change point slope and also slope-intercept form equations into standard form. Okay, to summarize here on your notes, if we have a decimal and we want to change a decimal to a whole number, we're going to have to do like we did in our notes. We're going to have to multiply everything by 10, or maybe 100 if we need to move the decimal point twice, or 1,000, and so on. But we have to multiply by a multiple of 10 so that the decimals move. So be sure you write that down. Then the second part, what if we want to change a fraction to a whole number? Do you remember what we did there? Remember how we had to multiply both sides of the equation by the denominator in the fraction? And that changed everything to whole numbers. And then, of course, simplify if you can. Remember that one example where we were able to divide everything by 2. We want to simplify that if we can. Okay, so far, hopefully you're seeing that we can take other forms of equations and change them into standard form. That's always the case. In order to write any equation in standard form, it has to be written in a different form first and then changed into standard form, okay? Because the a, the b, and the c mean absolutely nothing. So I either have to first start with y equals mx plus b or with a point slope form equation. So I have to first start with one of these, and then I can rewrite it into standard form. That's the only way to get an equation into standard form. It's not like the other two forms where you can just plug numbers in. It has to be rewritten, okay? Okay, so let's look at a couple other examples of some other different types of situations. Here I'm asking you to write the equation of this line in standard form. Now, notice we've written equations of lines from a graph before, but never in standard form. So what I just told you was that in order to get an equation in standard form, you have to first write it in a different form and then change it into this form. So if you were given a graph like this, what form would you write the equation in? Yeah, most likely y equals mx plus b. It's very simple to just plug the slope and the intercept right in there and get that equation. So here's my intercept, and then I can easily find the slope by going rise, run. Looks like I rise 3 and run 2. So I have y equals, this is up 3, left 2. That's a negative 3/2 x, and then my intercept is up here at plus 3. So I first have to start with a different form. Now I can change it into standard form, just like we did before. I want to get the x over here, so I add. Here I have 3/2 x plus y, and I'm running out of room. So because I have a fraction, I want to multiply by the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2 to get the 2's to cancel, multiply the y by 2 and this side by 2. So I will have 3x plus 2y equals, and over here, 6. There's my standard form. Notice the 3, the 2, and the 6 mean absolutely nothing. They're not the intercept, they're not the slope. They're nothing, okay? In order to get this form, I have to start with something else first and then write it into standard form. On number 8, here we're asked to write the equation of a line that goes through a given point and has this slope, 4. Let's use the point 6, -7. Go ahead and write that one down. Okay, so here I have some multiple choices. I need to get this into standard form, but remember, in order to get it into standard form, I have to write it in a different form first. I'm given a point, and I'm given a slope. So what would be the easiest form to put it in? Oh yeah, point slope form. So y minus my y coordinate, which is -7, that changes to a plus, equals the slope, and then x minus the x coordinate, which is 6. Perfect, I got it in point slope. Now I can take that and change it into standard. So go ahead and distribute. Okay, I'm there. I want to get the x over on this side, so I minus it. So I have -4x plus y equals -31. Now remember, you can't have a negative in the first term, so I can multiply everything by -1. So everything on both sides by -1. That changes this to a 4x, a minus y, and all the way over here to a +31. So there's my standard form, and then it looks like if I match it up, it matches with A. Again, do you see how I have to first start with a different form and then change it to standard? All right, let's look at number 9. On number 9, we want to write the standard form of a line that goes to the point 1, -6, and then the other point we're going to use is -5, 6. Just like that. Okay, we're given 2 points, and we want an equation in standard form. Again, we have to start with a different form first and then change it into standard form. So think about which form you want to put it in. You could either put it in this form, or you could put it in this form. No matter what form you pick, you're going to have to find the slope. So let's first find the slope using the slope formula. I'm getting -2. Hopefully you are too. So at this point, I know that the slope is -2. So I could solve for the b in this equation, or I could use a point, like perhaps this point, y minus the y coordinate equals the slope, x minus the x coordinate, here's the slope of -2, and then I could rewrite this one. So you have a couple choices. You could either solve for the b and then work this and get it into here, or you could rewrite this and get it into here. Well, think about it for a second. I could just start rewriting this into standard form. Or here, I'd have to first find the b and then rewrite it into standard form. It sounds like this way might be a little bit less work, a little bit easier. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to distribute. I'm going to minus my 6 here. Now, in order to get this into standard form, I'd have to add the 2x. I'd have 2x plus y equals, and then bring down the -4. Looks like everything follows the rules. And then I can just go ahead over here and match it up to the answer. I think it would match up to D. So it looks like it's D. Okay, did that one. Now 10. Write the equation in standard form for the table of values. So here I'm giving you a table. So think about, do I want to write the equation in y equals mx plus b, or do I want to write it in point slope form? What would be easiest? Well, either way, you're going to have to find the slope. So let's find the slope. Looks like from -8 to -6 we're going up 2, and from -2 to +2 we're going up 4. So 2 over 4 simplifies to 1/2. So I think I have my slope here. Well, looks like I have a bunch of points and a slope. So I think I might just use point slope form. I don't know, you could do it this way. It doesn't matter. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm just going to use point slope. So y minus the y coordinate changes that to +8. The slope is 1/2. And then I have x minus the x coordinate changes that to positive. There we go. I got it in point slope form. So now I'm going to take this and rewrite it into standard form. Because again, you have to start with a different form first and then change it into standard form. That's the only way to get an equation into standard form. So distribute. 1/2 of 2. Now I'm going to subtract the 8. 1 minus 8, -7. Okay, this has to get over on this side, the x term, so I'm going to minus. All right, two problems. This is a negative and it's a fraction. So can you think about how you could do this in one step? I know I have to multiply it by -1 to get rid of this negative, but I also have to multiply it by 2 to get rid of the denominator here. So maybe I just take the whole thing and multiply everything by -2. So that's going to make this a positive 1x, -2 times y, and then -2 times -7. And it looks like this would be my standard form of this equation. Okay, so hopefully it made sense. So if I'm going to summarize here, the biggest thing to take from this is that in order to write an equation in standard form, you have to start with a different form first and then rewrite it into standard form. So now at this point, you are ready to start your practice worksheet. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.